everyone, welcome to another comic review. This time we're reviewing the comic Bad Dreams by George Alexopoulos. I still don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly. So this is a comic book that he's selling on his own site, handmade of course. And if you've seen me review his stuff before, you know that I do love his art style. I just absolutely adore his environmental stuff. I mean, look at that. Look how fucking beautiful that is. So naturally, I saw some preview images of this comic, and I figured I'd give it a shot, see how I liked it. Now this is issue 1. I assume there are going to be more issues since the ending kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger. Now first I do want to talk about the quality. Since these are being handmade, I can tell there's being some experimentation done. One of the first things you notice when you get it is it's kind of big, actually. It's kind of bigger than the normal size of a comic. I don't mind a comic being a little bit bigger. One thing that is bothering me constantly is how he did the cover different. So he has this laminated paper for the cover and back, and it definitely moves very differently than the interior paper. It's also a little bit bigger. You can't really flip through the comic. It doesn't line up correctly. So I don't really like the feel of the cover and how clunky it is, but also you open it up and one of the first things you realize is that it's split open. So let me get a camera shot of that. Yeah, so this nice laminated cover they were experimenting with, split right open, I'm assuming during the folding process. Now you would hope that that's not going to rip any further than that, but I'm not entirely confident that it'll hold itself together for years to come. So at that point, I honestly would have rather preferred if you just had a straight up paper cover, just like a normal interior cover as opposed to this laminated. Oh, it actually does say on the inside, issue 1 of 4. Okay, so it's going to be a 4-issue miniseries. Part of me imagined it just being a 2-parter, so it's nice that he has that clarification on the inside. Now, getting into the actual story, we basically start off with this guy. He's at a party and he doesn't really feel like he belongs there. We get a little glimpse into his past where it's revealed he was dismissed from the army because he defied an order. So he comes outside from the party getting a fresh smoke and he meets this pretty lady. So naturally, he takes her home and fucks her. Yeah, that's how the story literally is. There's some clarification that he knows her, so it's not just he sees some random lady and he fucks her. But it is a bit sudden as far as pacing goes. And basically her story is that her husband passed away 2 years ago, so she's been filling up her house with candles as a way to make her feel comfortable because she's worried that his spirit is haunting her. Or at least that's the implication. So then they decide, hey, how about we get married? And, you know, I do love this beautiful chapel, even in black and white. This environmental art is just absolutely spanking. Then we get a shirtless man scene. He does kind of look like a stripper with the suspenders and no shirt. So she's chilling with her new husband, and then one night she looks out the window and it's a spooky monster! And then it just ends. So that is the whole entire story of issue 1. Not a lot really happened. It was basically a setup issue. It was like a prologue. But it wasn't a very interesting prologue. And I've definitely made this criticism before, but I feel like when you separate a longer story into issues, each issue should be able to have its own little contained story within it. So that if people are just jumping in, and let's say they only buy issue 1 or only buy issue 40, they can still be satisfied despite not sticking around for the rest of the issues. I basically feel like I bought issue 1 of Bad Dreams just for an art book rather than a story. Now the real story behind issue 1 is that she is a widow and she's marrying this new guy, but there's no, like, it's not a romance comic, you know what I mean? It's not telling any story of romance between the two. You just kind of assume that there's some spark between them because you see them fuck, and you know that they know each other, so you know that there's some romantic intention that's been built up off screen. You didn't see it in here. So you see all the emotions that click between these two characters without the build-up, so it's not effective. It's not really that effective. It just kind of felt bland, like everything that was happening in this book, it felt like a montage up to the last ending, which involves the spooky monster. It feels like this is the important part of the story, but that's where it ends. You don't get to see more of that till issue 2. So I went through this book, I wasn't sure where my focus should be, I wasn't sure what kind of story this was supposed to be necessarily. It wasn't by any means bad, it just kind of felt soulless. And given that the title of the book is Bad Dreams, I'd be willing to bet that the spooky monster is just a dream, so it might not even be heading in a more fantasy route. But given that this book feels like a prologue more than it does its own story, I have no doubt that the issues will get better as you get further into the meat of the story, more into the exciting parts and the stuff that you're actually supposed to be paying attention to, rather than the montage of, hey, I met this bitch, and then I married her, and that's it. And like I said, you know, beautiful art. I love the environmental stuff that comes from George, but I didn't feel too much for this story, which is why it feels like I like this more for an art book. But if you have yourself read Bad Dreams, let me know what you think down below in the comments section. That's what it's there for. And as usual, remember to like the video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!